You're listening to Conversations Ignite.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today I'm joined by Angela Calzone, President and CEO of Inroads to Opportunities. Glad to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure.
No, our pleasure's all ours. How's your day going so far?
So far, it is a typical Inroads day. We never know what to expect, but we are having a great time and we're doing a lot of good work here. So happy Monday.
Amazing. Amazing, and happy Monday to you. Can you actually tell us a little bit about what Inroads does?
Sure. We are a nonprofit agency, social services. We were started in 1959. And we have stayed true to our mission all those years. We serve and support individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as mental health and behavioral health concerns. Our primary focus is to ensure that, to the best of their ability, they can achieve empowerment, develop life skills, and if they so desire, have meaningful, sustainable employment. And we have a ton of different programs that help all these individuals from ages 16 to retirement meet their goals and exceed their own expectations.
Oh wow, what an amazing place you've got going on there. Can you share a bit about your role as the president and CEO of Inroads?
Sure. So my job is primarily to ensure that every step we take, every program that we create, every service that we provide, everything that we deliver to our stakeholders is aligned with our mission, and that is to empower individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and mental and or behavioral health concerns to reach their full potential, and if they so choose, to sustain meaningful employment.
Oh wow, awesome. Now, I believe before you started working at Inroads, you had about 35 plus years of career experience in the for-profit sector.
Correct.
Now, what made you transfer from the for-profit sector to nonprofit?
Well, I think there was a variety of things. For me, I felt after nearly 40 years on the for-profit side in business, largely in financial services, management consulting, strategic planning, building businesses, mergers and acquisitions, a lot of where the money is. I I realized that all of that business acumen, all of that success, all of the network that I have built, um, I wanted to apply it to something that really meant something to me. I have a daughter who has special needs, and I started to realize that, there's a chance that my little girl, who's now 16, that my little girl may not be able to be as independent as I hoped that she would have been. And so, who and what and where do I put around her to support her for that time that I'm not going to be here anymore? What happens? What happens to my kid? And in my last business, I had a management consulting practice, and Inroads to Opportunities was actually one of my clients. And it's an amazing place. They do phenomenal things with everything from school to work transition for kids with IDD to, developing life skills, independent skills, for young adults. And then they offer a variety of work options as well, all of which are supported in varying degrees. And as I watched my own child grow and develop, I thought, oh my God, this is the kind of place that would be an amazing partner for me, for my own family. And I started to get to know some of the parents and the guardians and the family members, and getting to know the staff, of course, because they were my clients. And when the opportunity came that the CEO and president was going to be retiring, I threw my hat in the ring and said, "This is the only place I want to be, and everything I've learned in business and how to innovate and how to grow and develop companies, I want to bring to bear for this organization." And it's working out marvelously.
That's amazing. What an awesome transition and such a great way to actually transition into the nonprofit organizations. So you had talked about inroads really helping people get and maintain jobs. What are some of the biggest misconceptions about hiring individuals with disabilities, and how can businesses kind of overcome this?
I think the biggest misconceptions are probably two or three, but they're so huge that they become an impediment for a number of individuals with disabilities to actually even gain employment. First is that concern that an employer has, especially an entrepreneurial organization or a small or mid-sized business. Larger companies feel that they can absorb these things, and they have a bit of a philanthropic bend. But you have a mid-sized company where the owner is present, or a partnership of owners is present, and their first concern is going to be, how much is this going to cost me? If I bring an individual who needs reasonable accommodations into my company, what's that going to cost me? How interruptive is that going to be to my business cycle? Is it going to take time away from other employees having to support and work with this individual? Um, it just becomes a concern. What are my customers going to think? Is there going to be a concern for my customers to think that they're not going to get the level of service that me as a business owner that I want to provide my customers? So all of those things start to stack up as perceptions in an entrepreneur or a business person's mind. And suddenly they put the brakes on and they think, oh, you know what, this isn't for me. But I will tell you that all of this couldn't be further from the truth. Um, Statistically, individuals with disabilities are those who who are able and willing to work, are very excited about the prospect of working. They are typically on time and um, have minimal absences. They are extremely loyal, very engaged, very enthusiastic. And if they need supports on the job, organizations like Inroads is here to do that. So that cost isn't borne by the employer at all.
Awesome. Now, what industries are kind of currently the most inclusive when it comes to hiring individuals with disabilities, and which industries kind of need to improve on that?
That's a good question. I don't know necessarily if I could speak to those that need to improve on that, but certainly where the diversity of having individuals with disabilities in the food service industry, they have been overall remarkably open. Just at Inroads alone, and I know across the state of New Jersey with our sister agencies, we see a lot of our folks going into school systems, working in school cafeterias, um, in restaurants and hotels across the state, doing everything from bussing tables to being a greeter in a restaurant and seating people. Um, Even some of the wait staff, they do food prep. Um, so the food industry has been very inviting, very welcoming. Retail as well. We've got a lot of folks at the big box stores, as well as some of the local mom and pop, unique stores in the central business district. So retail's been very open and very accommodating. Um, Hospitals have been as well, whether they are working in transport, janitorial, um, as orderlies, greeters. There are a lot of opportunities for our folks, um, and they're seizing the day and they're taking these opportunities. And I'm sure in your community alone, you can probably identify a handful of places that you may frequent, whether food service, restaurant, or shopping, retail, where you can identify folks like ours.
Yes, for sure. Um, it's amazing, and it really seems like a lot of the places that really welcome it are retail or very customer oriented businesses, which is really exciting and really awesome. Can you walk us through the training and employment support services Inroads provides for its participants?
Absolutely. So we have vocational services here. And so what does that mean when we break it down? This is a place where you can come to learn a variety of job skills, whether you want to work in retail, food service, manufacturing, contract packaging. If you want to drive a forklift, you are able to come to Inroads, learn these skills, and at the same time be coached on what your resume should look like, how you should dress for an interview. If you have a job in a specific industry or outlet, what should you wear in the day to day? And once you get that interview, what goes on an interview? What is that exchange like? What should you say and not say? Um, Very much like you'd coach any high school or college student or someone who's changing careers. Um, and then we will often accompany individuals on an interview if they so choose. Again, we aren't there to encroach. We're not there to get in front of that individual. This is about that individual being independent. Um, if they want us there, we'll be there to support them. If they choose to go it alone, we're behind them every step of the way as much as they need us. So once they acquire those skills, maybe they'll get a certificate in food safety, ServSafe certification for food handling. Um, we will then work with them on those soft skills, get them polished up, and then they'll start doing the interviewing process. Once they secure a job, we're there to assist them with the onboarding process. And again, we get as involved as they need us to be. Sometimes we're only doing, a couple of hours a month with an individual who they just, need us to be checking in with them periodically, making sure that everything's going okay on the job. Some folks they need a little more intensive assistance, so we'll be seeing them maybe once or twice a week, making sure they're staying on point with their job responsibilities. So there's a whole breadth of support, and we work very collaboratively with the employer. Again, we want those doors open for individuals with disabilities. So we do whatever we need to make sure that that employer is not only satisfied with the individual employee that they've elected to hire, but really partner with Inroads to make sure that there is no workflow interruption and that, our individuals can stay customer focused and focused on their responsibilities.
That's very interesting. I was just about to ask you that last part of what you just explained about working with the employer. So that's cool to see that y'all work hand in hand together. Now, I also found it interesting. You said when these individuals come to Inroads, they kind of already have an idea of what they want to do. And that's where you come in and kind of coach them and teach them and train them on whatever path it is they want to take.
Right. So in many cases, or I would say probably more often than not, they have a sense in their mind of what they'd like to do. And those are the folks that maybe have had some existing exposure to work. Now, there's other individuals that come to us right out of high school, or we get them while they're still in high school. And in that regard, it's more of an education as to what's out there in the work world. And we expose them to different jobs in the community, different types of careers. We have speakers come in and talk to them about everything from being, a person in law enforcement to a retail clerk to working as a janitor in a large facility. So not only do they hear about it here on campus through speakers and guests that we have, but they also are frequenting out in the community in the central business districts, in financial services firms. They're taking tours of every imaginable type of employer. So they get a great deal of exposure. And then as they graduate from these programs, they can decide where they may want to start their career.
Oh, that's neat. Now, does that differ from other nonprofits where they may partner with specific places only?
It depends on the nonprofit, its mission, its location. We happen to be blessed in so far as we're in a very urban environment. So we have amazing access to public transportation and supportive public transportation for our individuals. Um, it's easy to get to neighboring communities from our campus. And it's a densely populated area. So you have a host of different types of job opportunities and employers and different companies, small, medium, and large. Um, you have a lot of schools in the area, a lot of universities. So, and it's a very diverse community. So, opportunities are, you know, more abundant, I would say, in this area than maybe an agency like ours who resides in a more rural setting where public transportation may be challenging or there may not be as many employers or as many different types of employers. So we're very lucky in that regard. We have an urban campus. We are on one single street, but we have three large buildings. We have almost about 100,000 square feet. And within our campus is a variety of programs that meets a number of needs. And we've been able to grow in that regard, I think, in part because of our location and because we have such diversity of employment and opportunities here.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Really, depending on where the nonprofit is in the community. Um, Now, with all the individuals that you've helped, can you think about some success stories? Some really good success stories that really stand out to you?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's so many. I could be on here talking all day, Robert, about this. Uh, but I can tell you two that come to mind. We have a young man who is in one of our youth programs, and that is our school to work transition program. And again, we don't kind of just stay on this campus. We're out in the community all the time. And in our local municipality, they were doing a litter cleanup day. The borough that we live in and work in, it was the mayor's one of the mayor's initiatives. So let's clean up around City Hall, and we're going to stop litter on the streets, and so he, one of our participants, among many, was out there doing his thing, cleaning up the city. And the mayor took notice of how wonderful and how diligent this young man was working. And it turns out he's actually a resident of the town uh, that he was cleaning up. He and the mayor got to talking, and starting this spring, he starts in the Department of Public Works as an employee. So we're really excited about that for him. So a little volunteer cleanup goes a long way when the mayor's watching. So we're very excited about that. Very excited about that. And we've had a number of folks who trained in our food service program who received their ServSave certification, now working in some of the top restaurants, largest school cafeterias. I mean, the list goes on. We've placed so many people in such great roles, and they're successful at it, and they're independent, and they're happy.
That's really cool. And it's really cool to hear the success. And I can only imagine how special it would be to get in there, succeed, and have a great feeling about it. That's really neat.
Truly is.
Now I believe March is coming up, and that is National Disability Employment Awareness Month.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Now, why is it so important to recognize individuals with disabilities in the workplace?
Well, I think in part because of what we discussed before, that there are a lot of misconceptions that they may not perform as required by a particular job, which is not the case at all. I think the other misconceptions are that it may cost employers more than they would benefit, and that's not true either. So when we celebrate in March, we try and make sure that we're out there not only advocating for employees with disabilities, but we're also working with employers and making sure that they understand what's fact and what's fiction and how important it is to open your doors and your minds to hiring an individual with disabilities. And we're very careful about language. Um, and this is especially important with employers. We emphasize that it's an individual with a disability, not a disabled individual. And why that vernacular is so important is because when we talk about a disabled individual, that seems to encompass all that they are when that word disabled comes first. But if you talk about an individual who happens to have a disability, well, they also happen to have a residence in your community. They also happen to like playing chess. They also, and it goes on and on and on. So having a disability is just a part of the whole individual. It's not what solely and exclusively defines the individual. You can have an individual with a disability who is your top producer or top employee, or most loyal or most productive. So those are the stigmas that we try and shatter, especially during that month when the emphasis is on employment of individuals with disabilities.
That's really awesome, and I love how you put it that a disability does not define who you are. Now you've mentioned a couple times, I've heard you mention it, that individuals with disabilities tend to be more loyal employees. So how can that benefit the business for any business for, especially in the long run?
Well, I think when you have in any business, when you have a loyal employee or a number of loyal employees, you know that they're reliable, they're consistent, you can count on them. And when you have all of that as a foundation, you as an employer or a manager can rest a little easier and concentrate on the things that you need to concentrate on to grow and run your business, knowing that you've got a group of employees that really have your back or really understand how your store works or how that assembly line needs to be productive. I just think that when you have loyalty, um, it's invaluable because you know your business is safe with them. And that's whether or not an individual has a disability. A loyal employee is invaluable.
Yes. Yes, very, very true. Um, a lot of my listeners know I actually my primary work has always been in grocery retail. And um, we do a lot of work with individuals with disabilities. And throughout my whole career, I've seen they really are some of the most loyal people that we have. And I believe one of the reasons also is because we gave them that chance. We gave them a chance to succeed. So it's amazing to see that, um, especially from my aspect. So I really love the work that you do with all these awesome people. Um, now I believe you have a vision to double the number of people Inroads serves over the next 7 to 10 years.
Yes, absolutely. As I had said to you before, Robert, we are in a very densely populated area. And at this time, we are blessed to be serving around 400 individuals each year. I know that in our area, there are so many more people we aren't touching, we aren't supporting and serving that we should be. There's a lot we have to offer at Inroads, and we are this year and next year, we're going to be opening some additional programs and services. So there truly is something for everyone. And we make sure that when we are approaching support and service, we understand that our primary stakeholder is that individual who needs our services, but there's a whole community around that individual as well. There's their families, their guardians, if they live in a residential or group home. There's the staff there. There's their medical community and medical support. So there are a lot of people that we want to continue to engage with and expand our reach and expand our horizons so that we can serve more folks who need us and watch people just thrive and grow and develop and prosper.
Now, how does so we're kind of post-pandemic right now. What does the future of employees with disabilities look like now that we are post-pandemic? Especially since the workforce has really become more flexible.
Right. Well, I'm of two minds about that. On the one hand, the workforce has become more flexible in terms of schedule, job sharing, working from home, working remotely. And a lot of that has served our population well. Flexibility is always very important, especially for those that are relying on uh, public transportation or have mobility challenges. The ability to work off site or work from home is just, that's a gift. That's terrific. On the flip side, though, in our area, as state minimum wage has continued to increase, and we are now in New Jersey at $15.49. I think it is 15.49 an hour. Um, what we're finding with employers is that they want individuals, disabled or not, to be able to do as many things while they're in their employ as possible. So, where we would typically just maybe place a person who can do stock in a retail environment, now employers are looking for them to do stock and maybe a little inventory management and maybe a little cashiering as well. So places like Inroads are having to pivot in terms of their training. And instead of making an individual an expert in one thing, we're having to make sure that they've got capacity and skill in a variety of areas that are under the umbrella of retail. So it's a bit of a change in our business model, but you know what? That's what the environment calls for, whether you have a disability or not. That's what employers are looking for today. So we're rising to that challenge.
Oh, that's awesome. I can imagine that, especially, and it's not just retail, it's the whole industry. Everything is just changing like that. They want you to be able to do more and more. So it's very very awesome to see that you're rising to that challenge and helping all of your people learn and grow just like the businesses are.
That's right.
Now, how can businesses and communities get involved in supporting inroads?
I always say the first place to go is our website. It's a one-stop shop, and we are Inroads, inroads2.org. Not only does that talk about the services that we provide and the various ways that those services get funded and the way that individuals can engage with our services. It also talks about all the things that we're doing and within the community, who our community partners are. Uh, and there's a lot of good general information on there that if you are an individual in need of services, even if it's not us, there's other resources that you may be able to tap into. So it's a great place to, and of course, you can donate on our website too. So that's really important.
Oh wow, neat. Now I believe Inroads just recently hosted its largest ever annual fundraiser.
Yes, it was an amazing night. It was September, end of September last year. Last year, we celebrated our 65th anniversary, which was no small milestone by any means. And we were very fortunate to have an incredible fundraiser. We do these fundraisers every year. It's our biggest of the year. It's an awards ceremony. It's a casino night. Everybody comes out from the community, from our population, and just has a really great time. Um, but it was a very special night because it was our 65th anniversary, and it was the place was packed. We had well over 200 people there, and everybody had a wonderful time celebrating Inroads and the work that we do.
Ah, very neat. Why do you think it was such a big success this year?
I think the last few years we have made uh, a real conscious effort to leave our campus. Not that we don't love our campus, but to leave our campus and really make ourselves known in the community. And I think that is incredibly important because we are a part of the community. Um, and our individuals are your brothers and sisters and neighbors and friends and volunteers. And so we want to be very clear that when we are um, working with our individuals, it's on, again, one aspect of their life. Um, and that is to support them in making sure that whatever their disability is, it's not an obstacle for them. It's just, they're going to travel a different path to be successful. And we want to be there to support them.
You had mentioned getting out into the community, and that really does sound like just an amazing way to get success by going out there and just letting people know what you do and who you guys are. So I can definitely see by you guys getting out there how it can definitely lead to a very successful event like you just had.
And, Inroads, in a way, has a seat at the table that they haven't had previously. We're being called upon now for whether it's our individuals who we serve, to be volunteers in the community. Like the example that I gave you, they're not being invited to do a mayor's campaign on cleaning up the litter because they have a disability. They're part of Inroads. And so they're being called out to, just like other, folks from different aspects, from the local church or local synagogue. Hey, come on out. We're going to be doing this volunteer initiative to clean up the city. Inroads, if you've got anybody who wants to come. So, and that the beauty in that is that the stigma of the disability has vanished. Now, just like you're calling your folks up from the local synagogue or the local Knights of Columbus to say, hey, come out and volunteer for this cleanup event, let's call the folks from Inroads too. That disability stigma has diminished, or it's invisible now. We were recently doing something in the county. They were putting together an initiative on safer streets, because we're so heavily populated. We've got a lot of urban traffic. And with that, we've got highways mixed with heavy industry. And so you have fatalities and you have safety issues and crosswalk issues. And we were invited to have a seat at that table just to talk about, how can we, not only how can we make it safe for individuals who have mobility issues, but just safe in general for the community. So you see how that conversation has now shifted about, let's get those people to talk about disabilities. Now we're just talking about things that concern everybody in the community. And that is remarkable.
Yeah, that really is. Just how you've talked about the stigma of it going away. It's not people with disabilities now. It's just people. It's just people from Inroads. That's very neat to see and very remarkable that you've gotten out there and been able to do that. Now, as a leader, you definitely have you have got very extensive experience in both for-profit and nonprofit. What leadership principles kind of guide you, especially in such a mission-driven organization like Inroads?
I have always viewed leadership as service. And as the CEO and president of an organization like Inroads, my first responsibility is service. And that is to be of service to my staff. And they're number one, because if I'm in service to them and empowering them and offering them all the right tools and resources to do their job well, then they are delivering on our mission to the individuals that we serve and their families and their communities. So I am of service to the staff. I am of service to our population. I am of service to our community at large. So that is sort of the tenet that I live by, is leadership is service. So I'm not at the front. I'm at the back. pushing everybody forward and advancing everybody to the extent that they're willing and able.
Now, what has been the most rewarding moment in your career so far at Inroads?
Oh gosh. I think probably seeing the shift in conversation and seeing how much our doors have opened. And not only are we going out into the community at large, but the community now spends an awful lot of time here, whether they're engaging with our services or not. This is just a really cool place to come. So the mayor's always here, council, our Union County commissioners, um, local volunteer organizations, speakers. Um, it's an amazing part of the community.
Oh, that's so neat. Now, what advice would you give to somebody that's maybe hearing our talk right now and kind of looking to transition from maybe their corporate role into something kind of like what you're doing?
Oh gosh, I would say volunteer first. Get with an organization whose mission you feel some alignment with, and ask if you can, hang out and lend a hand. This way, you kind of get to know the organization a bit from the inside out, or the mission and what they stand for. It's also important to serve as a board member. A lot of our agencies need qualified, um, approachable board members who are willing to lend their expertise and their time to be able to help guide the mission and the agencies. So I would say most definitely, get on a board if you can. Those are the two things that kind of really get your foot in the door, that get you started.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Try and get out there, try it, make sure it is something that is for you. Cool. Um, Now, how has the perception of uh, associ- I'm sorry, my tongue is all tied. Um, how has the perception of people with disabilities kind of changed over the years that you've been doing this?
Well, I mean, I can only speak to what I know as just a community citizen. I have been with Inroads just about 5 years, and I have served as the president and CEO for the last 18 months. So I couldn't tell you from a historical perspective at Inroads how that perception has changed, but from my own experience, and then having a daughter with special needs, I know, um, from the time that I was in school until having her in school, the difference in the way school districts and school systems handle kids with special needs. There is so much more support out there. We're talking about it more. It's part of the conversation um, with parents. There aren't the obstacles and the challenges that there used to be when you had a kid who might have been struggling in school. So I applaud the school systems and the school districts in how they've taken a very different approach um, to to navigating education for these kids, and then having so many agencies like Inroads out there. Um, Being able to take these kids from when they graduate and offering them options and opportunities that they wouldn't have had before. Because, again, going back to that stigma of what a disability is, seen disabilities and unseen disabilities.
Yeah. Now, um, I asked this to all the people that I talk with. What is your definition of success?
I would think that my definition of success is if you felt that by you being present, you've changed the life of one person, if you've made their road a little easier to travel, if you've given them hope or inspiration or guidance, in a way that they took it and were successful, I think that's success. I don't think success is anything so grand and you know philosophical. I think it's in the day to day. It's all how we touch each other and make each other feel. It's all, that whole old expression, if you leave someone or something better off than when you first met them, you're a success. That's it. That's all there is to it, I think.
I like that, and it's such a different definition for everybody, and it's really awesome to see your definition, just because you work with some people that have some great success stories, and their success is different from maybe your or my successes, and it's very, very cool to see how you view that. So I really appreciate everything that you do and everything that Inroads is doing. Where do you see Inroads being in the next 10, 15 years?
Wow. I think that we are going to be serving over 1,000 people a year in the next 10 years. I think that we are going to have a variety of campuses in a number of municipalities so that we can be right there on the ground serving people and their families as needed. And I just think that we're going to continue to evolve and keep our fingers on the pulse of the needs of our community so that we can be agile enough to change when they need us to change and still be mission aligned.
Awesome. Now, do you see maybe sometime in the future Inroads going out of just New Jersey and maybe into multiple other states?
Probably not during my tenure anyway. I think New Jersey is our home, and I think there is a lot of need here. I mean, even just in the counties that we serve, there's so much more to be done. So we've got a lot to grow and develop in our own backyard. So I don't think during my tenure we're going to be going out of state.
Very cool. So if any of my listeners, I know you had already said your website, but if any of my listeners would like to connect with you, do you obviously I'd like you to let everybody know your website again, but do you have any social media for Inroads or anything that they could go visit also?
Absolutely. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook and LinkedIn. It's Inroads to Opportunities. And we are in Roselle, New Jersey. So if there's anything that they need to differentiate when on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, it's Inroads to Opportunities in Roselle, New Jersey. And our website again is inroadsto.org. Inroads2.org.
Awesome. Amazing. I can't thank you enough for being on today, sharing your story, and just giving us a little bit of insight into what you guys do and how awesome of a really awesome organization Inroads is.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert.
No, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for being on. Thank you for everything that you guys are doing. And please just keep up the great work that you guys are doing.
Will do. Will do.
Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Conversations Ignite. See you next time.